Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center, and this next interview brought to you by the Vancouver Canadians. Thanking Seas fans for another great season at the Nat. If you're looking to guarantee your seat for the 2025 season, visit CanadiansBaseball.com or call 604-872-5232. And here he is, one day ahead of schedule. Patrick Johnson, beat writer of the Province and Post Media, covering the Vancouver Canucks, normally a Thursday guy. Thank you for your flexibility with us, Paige. We saw yesterday at practice something that could very well resemble the opening night lineup a week from tonight, Rogers Arena against the Calgary Flames. Let's start on the defense where Hughes and Hronek are together. No surprise there. I mean, Hughes had effectively bossed them into this earlier in camp when he said, I don't know why you change anything. I want to Norris, exactly. And sure enough, they took their cues. Susie Myers, Forbort, Desharnais, and so very much looking like they're going to load up two pairs. It's our poll question today. Is this the best way to splice up, divvy up, structure the pairs?
I guess, yeah. I mean, this is something I mentioned last week, and it is a question mark I've had since this is the direction they went in, the beginning of free agency, that they went with a couple guys in Desharnais and Forbort who I think bring question marks with them, and it's now a question of how do they work as a pair once the real action starts. For a guy who's mostly been a depth defenseman the last few years, Desharnais, who is big and strong. But we saw a lot of in the playoffs, and you could see that there were some struggles. I mean, Desharnais has been a bit of a partner-dependent player, so he was terrible with Darnell Nurse, but he was okay away from him. I think it's matchups, and this is what it's all going to come down to. As you mentioned, that Hughes-Hronek pairing, I mean, it was so dominant last year. Are you going to lean on them? They can't lean on them early, but when push comes to shove, they're going to lean on them anyway. It really comes back to me. I mean, Carson Soucy was quality. I was impressed with him last year. It's how much does Tyler Myers have left in the tank? How can they manage their way around all this in terms of the system and the structure and everything?
Blake and I debated this yesterday, or last week, I should say. And I was very much, make sure you have an okay skater / puck mover on each pair. And then that would presumably allow Myers to be in a more appropriate role at his age, playing more appropriate minutes. But then that does elevate Desharnais. So the question is, if you're going this route, I guess you're leaning heavy minutes on these four gentlemen, right? I
mean, the other thing is, guys, I mean, we've been a pie in the sky. The Canucks would love to get that second pair right shot defenseman, obviously.
Yeah.
But are they, if that's not going to manifest itself in the first 2 months of the season, are they just as well off by going to find a number 5 left defenseman who can make that third pair more of a legit pair? Because Forbort and Desharnais are effectively the same quality of player, and they're playing together, and they're both 6'7" guys. Yeah. So that is a fashioned final pairing that is not great.
No, I think there is a part of me wonders if there is exactly that. There's a placeholder element here that they're like, we're just going to roll with this as long as we can, and we'll go out and find someone, or maybe, just maybe, there's a kid on the farm that's going to surprise us. And obviously, we saw the play of Kirill Kudryavtsev. I don't think this season is going to be a solution, but that's the kind. And I wrote about this on the weekend. In him, in Elias Pettersson, and perhaps even Surya, there is something, if you squint, something of a pathway coming with a defenseman or two coming internally. Like, here's the stat, guys. Since Alex Edler was drafted in 2004, there are 4 Canucks draft picks as defensemen who have become essentially NHL regulars of any kind. And that means you're including Kevin Connaughton, who has been up and down.
Wow.
You're
probably over years.
Including Gustav Forsling.
That's Forsling, that's Hughes, that's Ben Hutton, and that's Kevin Connaughton.
Wow.
Holy cow. Wow. So it's Hughes.
Well, they've had guys play games. Yeah. They've had guys play games. Nikita Triamkin, right? Like, played games. They've had guys play games. Guillaume Brisebois played games. Jack
But guys with NHL careers.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
they made NHL careers.
Yeah.
That's what you get.
Oh wow.
2 guys.
In 20 years.
Rathbone
And yeah,
on
2 of them
waivers
didn't
this
even
week.
have never even played here.
And
Right?
Connaughton and Hutton, good on them for forging NHL careers, but like not consequential NHL careers.
No,
2 guys
but-
with consequential NHL careers, Hughes and Forsland.
But that said,
Yeah.
Connaughton and Hutton, that's scoreboard, and that's
Right.
Henry,
Who'd you rather
right? Like
have?
those
Yeah,
are the guys.
yeah.
That's what you're looking to fill. And if you can't, in the end, the Canucks have been unable to fill that role internally forever.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask you guys this? Last week before rosters are set, not even a week actually, we've seen them be active at this time of year in the past.
Yes.
Can anyone see a Nils Höglander for a defenseman trade in the next week?
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't blow me away.
A trade, like Patrick Allvin has done this both years, right? Like he's done a last minute move. I mean, that is in general. Also, it's funny. I'm keep reading a lot of old stories, and there's been constant moves by this organization. I think it's true of almost every team in the league. There are moves that happen at the end of camp. Absolutely.
But he makes trades. Like other teams make moves. He makes trades, which a lot of GMs
could very well come out of this. Absolutely.
Yeah, in strap-capped era, a lot of the GMs are like, "Oh, my hands are tied. I can't make any moves." And Alvin's like, "Screw that! I'm going out there and making trades."
And now Rick Tocchet's also got the leash guys to go to them and say, "Guys, that ain't it.
Not good enough." I like our size, but I don't like our mobility. I don't like our puck transportation, and we are way better off if Forbert and Juleson slot as 7 and 8 than as 5.
And look at it this way, like
7.
in the system, right? You're waiting for things in the overall system to happen. You're waiting for Detroit to make a decision with a goalie. But now that we know how the NHL and the NHLP have agreed to deal with Johnny Gaudreau's cap hit, rest in peace. Don Waddell has said, I am looking to add a veteran player. Now, I'm not suggesting the Canucks have that veteran player, but he has essentially been assigned a task by the NHL. You need to get $2 million on your cap. And you can do that however you want to do it. So I don't think this is what happens. But I said there, you could send him Tucker Pullman for free. And then Columbus is cap compliant. Waddell has made it clear he'd like to get a player that can play. But all of a sudden you get Pullman off.
Yeah.
You got some stuff to work with. So
that'd be good. Okay. Moving up to the forward ranks. And Coach certainly dangled a carrot there with Daniel Sprong. We wondered whether it would be Connor Garland moving on up as a right shot guy who's got some goal scoring. We wondered if it would be Nils Höglander, who had played a lot with Pettersson and DeBrusk in the past. We even, wondered whether Kiefer Sherwood or someone like that could make a bid for it. But Coach had Sprong there yesterday.
Yep.
And his caveat was, he thinks it can be a damn good line for us, but they've got to make sure that they play inside and they come up with pucks too. So it sounds like he's a little concerned about dirty areas and forechecking and things like that if he keeps that trio together.
I see it as a group that is there to do a very obvious thing, and that's score goals. I don't think we've ever thought of Elias Pettersson as not wanting to go to dirty areas, but certainly a challenge to the player, and a point of clarity, I suppose, to Jake DeBrusk as well. And Daniel Sprong, I mean, internally, let's be clear, they knew what this player was going to be. They knew the challenges that he presents. They know the strengths he has, and we've seen the strengths. We saw the goal last week. This is a guy who wants the puck on his stick, who loves to attack the net. It is when he is without the puck that the questions come. And that's why I thought that, for instance, last week, the variation when we saw Sherwood skating a little bit with them, like, that could be your late game variation, right? Sprong is just your, last 10 minutes of the game. It's Kiefer Sherwood that's skating with those two and not Daniel Sprong. And as has been said many times, Rick Tocchet loves his pairs. And so then or his duos, his duo here is clearly DeBrusk and Pettersson. At least that's what he hopes it will be. And it'll be some variation of Sprong plus Sherwood plus whoever. Garland. I mean, listen, Garland is also clearly a guy that deserves more ice time. You would do well to have more ice time. Should he fit well with Elias Pettersson? I absolutely think he should, because if there's one thing you do when you're with Connor Garland's keep your stick on the ice, and Elias Pettersson's very good at keeping his stick on the ice. So they need that line to fire. That is not a news flash to anybody. They need Pettersson to get back to the player he was in January and not the player he was in February and March and April.
Are you more intrigued by Sprong with those two guys than Heinen with Besser and Miller?
Yes, absolutely. Because I think like Sprong's just a better goal scorer, right?
Yeah.
Like he's just the offensive ability is there. Heinen is interesting. I like the player, but generally he's been a third liner, and now you're asking him to be a whatever that line is, second line, first line, right? Like,
but they're kind of asking him to play like a third liner on that top line. So
yeah,
that's not
and I mean the way they're asking him to be deployed, which is to be the guy that helps helps Miller forecheck,
right?
And that's fine. You know,
yeah,
I mean,
the danger in doing what you're talking about, the old Brandon Sutter sort of promotion when they picked him up from Pitt. Oh, he can be a second line center now.
Yeah.
You're asking him to do something different. The good news is I don't think they're asking Heinen to do anything different.
No.
It may have different results on the bottom line. Like I think he'll get peripheral points a lot more now.
Yeah.
But the good news is I don't think they're asking much more of him, which is nice.
Well, think back to last year's critique we had of the Miller-Besser line, which was that, you know, Phil DiGiuseppe, good guy, worked hard, but he's not good enough. You need to be better than Phil DiGiuseppe. And I think Danton Heinen certainly is better than Phil DiGiuseppe. The question is how much better, and does that matter?
Yes.
And I'm not. We'll find out. My instinct is no, but and Danton Heinen is a quality, handy forward that plays two ways. But he's never been a guy that dominates a shift, and never been a guy that's really been leaned on to be a top six forward. So it's a big challenge. It's rolling the dice on something, and that's what you have to do in today's NHL. Is you have to be willing to take some risks and try some things. And there's certainly a projection here that they are hoping works out. There is a bit of risk. It's not a swing for the fences risk. It's this, can I stretch a single into a double?
Speaking of risk, I've never seen a team mitigate it more than the Vancouver Canucks this preseason by not playing its star players. But based on what's happened around the NHL, keeping a banged up JT Miller out of the lineup until the last possible second seems like a good play.
Yesterday was a bloodbath.
Yeah. And given he got a little bruised, JT Miller did in the scrimmage, I don't think anybody's got a problem with it at this point.
Like before we get to Miller, like how Arbor Cheka is allowed to take 2 match penalties is ludicrous. Like, just what are we even doing here? This is it's again. Like I mentioned, I end up at times look at old stuff. The suspensions that used to get thrown around. Pardon me, I forget the goalie's name, but whoever the goalie was for the Detroit Red Wings, large part of the 80s. Was known for slashing guys and got suspended. Ron Hextall had multiple, like 6+ game suspensions for slashing people. And that was just par for the course. And apparently now it's, I don't know, some of his feelings might get hurt if we suspend a total lunatic for more than 2 games. Anyway, that's my rant.
Yeah.
Miller. I do laugh a little bit about this because I have, of course, been one person who's been downplaying this. I spoke with JT last week when everybody else was in Abbotsford. He wasn't going to be playing. He quipped, "Oh, I'm injured. I can't talk." Because, of course, the rules, if they're injured, they can't talk.
Yes.
They don't have to talk. I'm injured. And he just listed off. And it was, it was a bit of a running. We just had a laugh. I said, 2 minutes. He goes, "Oh, yeah." And I said, and there was no indication. This is a guy who's been on, like, beyond the normal practice time, doing his seminar the hockey 101 seminars that him and Rick Tocchet just love to do. I mean, these guys love thinking about hockey, the way it works. If you're ever out at UBC, pay attention to how long those guys stay on the ice. They have to get kicked off the ice by the ice guys.
Rink rats through and through.
Just rink rats. Just absolutely love it. So whatever it is exceedingly minor. And like I was mostly saying, I think mostly it's just JT Miller hates preseason hockey, and I get it. Yeah. He also knows he needs to skate it once, but it's a long year.
It's a long year.
The great line from Michael Strahan, the former football player, about retiring and then coming back before the first game of the season, the year the Giants won the Super Bowl. And his comment was, "Well, I wasn't sure if I wanted to play again, but I was damn sure I didn't want to go through another training camp again.
Yes. KG move.
There's only so much. Yeah, there's only so much you can really get out of the way, you know.
Akito Hirose, he's concussed,
Right.
getting flashbacks to Breezeball last year, and that could be a real pebble in their shoe when setting that. No, explain.
Oh, in terms of the injury, yeah.
Well, in terms of setting your opening night roster and wanting to accrue cap space and yada yada yada.
Yeah, I mean, it is
Because you can't send him down when he's hurt, right?
Yeah, but there's
Isn't
also
that the learning from
there's also season opening injured reserve. Like it's all.
Okay, but that counts against your cap, no? Anyways,
There
and your roster.
Oh, he's on a he's on a two-way, right? This is the one that I remember I was thinking about it and I meant to look this up, and it's challenging. There's absolutely this is a challenge. It's not just Hirose. It's the Joshua situation. It's the Demko situation. It's Pullman still being there. You know, that they don't want. It's going to be very difficult for them to start the season not in LTI. Like they can do it, but they have to make some choice. And one of the choices was putting Phil Giuseppe on waivers. You know, that was not a thing they necessarily wanted to do, but probably going to have to do. They are almost certainly going to have to make a choice between Friedman and Juleson. One of those guys is going to have to go on waivers, right? Like, there were lineup even last week when we were kind of briefly considering Jonathan Lekaramaki, and I wrote a thing about it on the weekend, how he gets, because it was close. Like, this is a guy that's close. But it required you accepting the fact that you're going to keep a guy that doesn't need waivers over guys that need waivers.
Mm-hmm. It is a one-way deal.
It is.
Yes, I see it. Okay.
Yeah. So never mind, because season opening IR is meant to help with situations like that. You know, but if you have to be on a two-way, you have to be on a two-way.
Okay, buddy. Well, we got a big week ahead here, and we'll have a game in the books next time we talk to you. So you'll get a little sneak preview before we ask you to make predictions and all of that.
Right. Yeah.
We look forward to your work over the weekend here as they do set the roster and get ready to roll for real.
Don't get injured in the preseason. It's going down like flies these days.
I'm trying my best not to, boys.